How you feel about that? My opening. How's everybody doing? It's Sunday. I was just texting with Sarah. She cracks me up, man. She is funny. Wonder Hussy. You guys know her. Anyhow, oh yeah, so I'm not sure. I got a lot of you have, so I've gotten a few messages on Messenger on Facebook and my private email and Instagram. It's not a lot. It's not like dozens and dozens of people, but I don't know, maybe close to a dozen people have asked if I'm going to be at the thing in Tacopa on November 2nd. I have not made a determination on that yet. It would be smart, I think, for me, for the channel and everything, and it would be fun. And there's people that live in Tacopa that I really like, and that's where I'll leave that. So it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I haven't decided on it yet. I'm going to be going there from time to time regardless. I'm kind of on the fence of going while there's like a known event happening. That's just the one thing. It's too many people for me, I think. I don't know what's going on outside my window here. At any rate, that's that. I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 interactions I had this week. Oh, and also, I might sound a little out of it. I feel a little bit out of it. And it's a thing. This happens all the time, and I forget it. Every single time I forget it. It's when I'm in Arizona where the air quality is cleaner, and I come back to LA and I get that thing. So I'm not sick, like a cold kind of thing, but I get kind of congested a little bit, and my throat, I get that. And then like later in the day, I can get this thing where I feel like I'm getting sick, and really all I need is rest. I wake up the next morning and I'm good to go. It's air quality. So this time of year, it's still kind of warm here. August, September, and October, it can get a little warm. And if you don't know, Los Angeles itself is a basin. We're kind of surrounded by mountains. And so if you're at the beach, you get pretty good fresh air. And where I'm at nighttime, when it's cooler, I get nice fresh air through the apartment. It blows from that direction to that direction. And right behind this wall is my bed, and there's a window over there, and I leave that open, and I got my bathroom window open, so I get nice cross breeze going over me. It's great. Excuse me. But when I'm reminded of it is, like this morning, it was late morning, getting close to noon, and I was driving north, and I'm looking at the mountains. I'm like, oh, I could actually see the dirt in the air. And you could see it because you're looking at the mountains, and you know how clear they're supposed to be. And so that's a thing. And, once the winter hits, once it's cooler all the time, that dissipates. Again, an inversion layer was a heat layer. It traps the air in the basin. And that's why you have poor air quality here. And you have to realize there's, I don't even know, 14 million people, something like that in Los Angeles, and freeways all around us, all the traffic, just the rubber off the tires. There's constantly dust in here you got to clean up and all that. I can see it. I'm breathing this in. You see it all the time. So it's a real thing. But going to Arizona is going to probably be better for my health. Anyhow, let's put that aside. So the first person I'm going to talk about is a guy who called me today. I think it's Dan Love. Nice guy. If I got that wrong, you'll let me know in the comments. So he's a follower here. Every once in a while, and I'm not encouraging this because I typically don't have the time for it, but every once in a while, I'll get a phone call out of the blue, and it's a fan, and it's nice. If I've got the time and they're cool, I'll engage and I'll talk. I think we were on the phone for like an hour. Real nice guy. We talked about a lot of subjects, and the point I want to make, which I'll bring up right now, and then I'll kind of address it as I touch on the topics, is what I've realized because of you, because of the comments and everything, is that there's a lot of you here that like when I'm blathering, when I have these long form videos where I'm touching all these subjects. especially when I'm touching all these different things. Like if it's the Sasquatch Bigfoot thing or a UFO thing or some politics, which are really, that's a common sense approach when I'm talking about that stuff. Geoengineering, ancient astronaut theory, ghosts, all these things that I've discussed here. There's a lot of you out there that have lived a life. You are smart people. You have common sense. You've observed these things yourselves. Some of you have had experiences in these realms, let's say. And you have a hard time talking to other people who don't accept it. And people that don't know and don't want to know, oftentimes they'll just ridicule you, make fun of you, try to get you to not talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable, And I guess what's happening here for you is that I'm a guy that doesn't mind speaking my mind on what I think. I don't care what anybody else thinks about what I think. What you think about me and what I'm putting out there is none of my business. Doesn't seem to be hurting me because the channel keeps growing, so that's a good thing. So there's more and more people coming here going, oh, I like the way this guy thinks. That's all it is. And that breaks it down to like this weird psychological thing where it's like you see me as a pal, which is nice. It's just somebody you're listening to that makes sense. It makes you feel comfortable and calm because the other people in your life, when you try to talk to them about these things, they don't want to hear it. And there's so much BS going on. And if you try to watch cable news or something like that, and there's all this nonsense and lies, you start questioning your own sanity. So people are coming here because it makes you feel sane and normal. And I think that that's what the purpose of me being here is. A bunch of things just flashed into my brain because I have to talk about the VA stuff, but I'm not going to do that in this video. We'll talk about, I might do it today, I might do it tomorrow, the next day. We'll get into that. But something came up there about getting hit by cars. I've been hit by cars, I think a lot. I think the first time I got hit by a car was about 5 years old. When I was about 12 or so, I got hit by a car where I had a cast on my foot. And that's kind of part of what's going on with the VA thing. And we'll get to all that another time. But every once in a while, well, I used to think about this a lot where I wonder why I'm still here sometimes. Because there's been so many things that have happened to me that should have taken me out. And I feel like this is the reason. Like this is the purpose. Was creating this YouTube channel and talking to people just to make people feel good. And I know that some of you are like, this guy makes people feel good. He's fat shaming and goofing on people and saying this and cursing and everything else. Well, yeah, that might bother you. But for the one person it bothers, there's 100 people that get a kick out of it. I'm making them feel good. So that's all that matters. It's like the comedy thing and everything else. You make people laugh and feel good. That's what matters. It's more important than almost anything else. You're not measured in this world by your... People think you're measured by your power and your money and maybe your influence. But the truth is, I mean, when you go, I think the people that are remembered most are the people that made other people feel good. I'm just saying. So this guy calls me up and turns out he's calling me. I think he's the third person now. I know I mentioned one other, but I think there might be somebody else. But because I've been doing these watch videos, which is just a passion of mine, it's something I'm interested in. I like the history and I think they're cool. We're in the MWC still. I love this frame. The specs on this watch are incredible. I love it. And when I was at the watch shop last week, they told me a guy called from Washington and he's sending a Rolex down that's got a chipped crystal. They're going to replace the crystal. This guy calls me. He's got a Zodiac Seawolf, which is a really interesting watch. It's one of the first dive watches that you could purchase. Going way back, Panerai really had the first one, but that was just for the Italian Navy. The whole history, you guys can look that up. Blancpain was the first one to come to market, followed by pretty much at the same time, I think it was Zodiac, and then Rolex the next year. And the Zodiac Seawolf is kind of a lesser known, and it's a smaller watch. The other two are like 40 millimeters. I think the Blancpain was 40. I think the Rolex was 39. And I think that the Zodiac Seawolf is more like coming in at like 36, 37 in that range, which I wouldn't like, too small. Now, the Zodiac has reissued these watches over the years. They've made them larger, and I wouldn't mind having one just because of the history, but not looking for it. Anyhow, I think it might have been his father's watch or something, and he lost the bezel for it, and it needs to get running, and so he wanted to talk to me about that and get the information from the watch shop. Again, Majestic WJ on Larchmont Boulevard. Mike and Vartan. Mike's the dad, Vartan's the son. It's Majestic Watch and Jewelry, and you guys can look that up and find them. And I would recommend them. I am recommending them. I've seen them work on Rolexes and Patek Philippe's and everything else. Super high-end watches. And you could request, they have the pressure tester for water resistance. I don't know what they would charge for it. I'm sure it's a separate thing. But if you send them a dive watch, the guy with the Rolex, this guy with the Seawolf, I would say, hey, when you talk to them, say, listen, I ask them first. I'm pretty certain. I haven't seen it, but we've discussed it. I'd like to put that on video one day. Maybe we could do it with one of your watches. If not, I'll bring in one of mine. It would be neat to see the pressure test because they can test it for water resistance for you and basically certify it for you and be like, okay, that's good for 200 meters. You're golden. And then you know. Be a nice thing to do. At any rate, we just started talking. He was such a nice guy. He was so excited that I picked up the phone and had the time to talk to him. I enjoyed it. But yeah, we talked. The Bigfoot thing was fun and UFO stuff. And, you know, I don't need to have a super long conversation with anybody who's on the same page kind of on any of these subjects because it's just, I just hear myself repeat myself. We're going to be saying the same stuff, and there's no point in getting that into it at that point. Like, we already know. You don't have to convince the person. So the conversation quickly went to him dealing with his friends and people in his own family that he can't talk to anymore, or at least he feels like he can't because they don't accept his position on the way he sees the world and politics, or like I said, Bigfoot, UFO, whatever it is. And it's a shame that the people who are oftentimes closest to you don't give you the space to be yourself. Then they kind of pressure you to either not bring this stuff up anymore or accept their beliefs or whatever. And my message to those people is always the same, which we're going to get into with another conversation here that I had. You know, just because you're related to people doesn't mean you really have to talk to them. I mean, unless you're married to them, and if that's that bad, you can get out of that too. I'm just saying, I say this all the time. John Lennon said it, always be yourself. It might not get you a lot of friends. It'll always get you the right ones. And that's really what the conversation ended up condensing down into. But hey, Mr. Love, you were awesome. Thank you. Super cool. I'll go to the watch shop. I'm sure they'll let me see the watch when it gets in. Same thing with the guy with the Rolex. If I'm in there and they're working on it, maybe I'll shoot a minute of video on it or something while I'm there, or at least take some snapshots and then share it in the video that I do at that time, just to keep you abreast of things, just for you. So that was cool. That was a good time, good conversation. By the way, real quick, right here, people keep asking who these people are. This is Charles and Ray Eames. So Charles is on the back. Ray was his wife. He was originally an engineer. She was an artist. And I think in the late 30s or so, they came up with this method to bend plywood, create shapes of plywood. So they were taking very thin veneers and using glues and forms and making these plywood shapes. And they came up with a leg splint. I think that was the first thing that they did that the U.S. military adopted, and which was pretty cool. And after the war, I believe they were living in New York City in some flat there, like a warehouse type space. And they started doing bentwood, again, with the plywood furniture. And then they were kind of discovered by Herman Miller, the furniture company, and they started mass producing their designs. And they are, in my opinion, like what I would want. You know, it would be nice. I'd love to meet a woman like that, where I had that kind of relationship, and together we could build an empire with design and make people happy. And that's why I had, plus I'm into motorcycles. They're on a Velocette there. I think it's a 500 single thumper. And I picked that up decades ago, and I just have so much respect for them and their relationship and their business model and their style. So that's what that's about. And this was a gift from somebody for my birthday. You can't see the images up here on screen. But this is an image I took in New York City. That was the blizzard in '96 in Central Park, looking out over the east side. And that's Butch and Sundance, you know. Paul Newman and the other guy. Actually, Paul Newman, I watched Slapshot last night. And Sabo called me while I was watching Slapshot. And Sabo and I had a great conversation last night. And he actually opened my eyes to something personal in his life that I've known all about all these years since I've known him. But I didn't know these intricate details. And now I see him and everything else he's dealing with. And it's such a different light. It was just this epiphany. Bam! And like just everything shifted in my brain. And I'm bringing that up, I suppose, as a something to be aware of in life. Like you might think you know somebody really well and you've known them for a long time, years, a decade, whatever. Doesn't mean you know everything about them. It doesn't. And one good conversation where they're in that right headspace and they're free, they're feeling comfortable with you, and you can say things to one another where you're not... I think men do this more often. Women could do it with themselves, I suppose, but men and women, it's a problem because there's all these other issues going on in their minds. Like, I've talked to some women and I'm saying something, but they're hearing another thing. That happens with my sister all the time. Yesterday I talked to her. It's very frustrating. Love my sister, not always easy. And, you're saying something, you don't even get to the point, and they're already pissed, and they start cutting you off because they're talking to this thing that you just said that isn't the full picture of what you were trying to get to, and now you can't get to it because you're in a friggin' argument because they just got set off. As soon as they get set off, it's like boom, 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 boom. That's tough. And even with Sabo, it was never that bad, but a lot of times when we would have conversations, that sort of thing would happen. And last night, it was the first time I can remember where we had a conversation. So I guess there's 4 people we're talking about today, because I wasn't thinking about interjecting Sabo into this conversation today, but yeah, he was just free last night. And I hit him with some good questions that were personal. And then he was like, no, well, this is how that is. And he explained these things in a way where, again, clear as day now. And I'm just so happy that we're in this other place. And by the way, he's looking to move. He's in a tough spot where he's living with his brother in Colorado. And it's expensive there. And I pointed out to him where my house is, Sierra Vista, Huachuca City. And it's higher elevation. It does get warm in the summer, August, September, October. This same thing you get here in California, you get there at where that's at. It's right on the border, basically. But it's higher elevation. So in the wintertime, temperatures at night, high 20s, low 30s, very common. You get a dusting of snow even. Usually burns off by 11 o'clock in the morning. But you have weather there. And you get monsoons and everything else. It's pretty green there. And again, Tombstone and Bisbee. It's a beautiful place to be. It's pretty green year round. And there's mountains there and hunting and all these things to do. And you can get a 2-bedroom apartment there for $800 a month. You can get a house there, 2-3 bedrooms, for around $1,000 a month, depending on where it is, which neighborhood. And the crime isn't bad there. The illegal issue isn't illegals necessarily committing crime like they do here and other places in the country. It's more high-speed chase issues with the coyotes there. So he's right away got on the computer, started looking at it. He thinks it's looking pretty good. And so he's looking into that, and that would be kind of neat. And last night when my head was hitting the pillow, I was thinking about him, and I'm going to hit him up with this, because he's thinking about getting like a regular job and then kind of doing his art on the side. And it hit me as I was about to fall asleep last night. It's like, with his skills with graphic arts and whatnot, and his ability to just have a thought, get on the computer and create a meme. Because I was trying to explain to him last night that I watched something on Gutfeld, and they showed an ad, like this political ad by Springsteen. He's a friggin' douchebag. I can't believe this guy's music is the anthem of my childhood. Every song was about like an anthem to blue collar, red blooded, patriotic Americans, and he's a friggin' commie. And it doesn't matter to him. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he can support the left and Marxism and everything else because he's insulated from it because he has so much money. It doesn't matter. So you can't listen to these super wealthy people giving you advice because they're not affected by it in that much of a negative way. And can you imagine? That guy can lose $100 million and still be fine and wipe his ass with $100 bills three times a day. Don't listen to those people. They're the ones going to the parties, having sex with kids and everything. You know what I'm saying? Don't listen to these people. So, but I thought about it, and my point I was making with Sabo last night is, instead of just focusing on the politics, like the political pundits, because he's always thinking in art and things he can do paintings of now because he got into painting, but also his hits that he does, which are pretty in your face. I make these points to him. I'm not going to change his mind and way of thinking and the way he does things, and I don't want him to change. I just want him to be aware of another point of view. But one thing I gave him last night was memes. Get involved with the meme war. Like you take Springsteen and you take that ad that he did and just the way he looks with that, what he was wearing, everything. Take his image and then use like lyrics from his own songs to point out his hypocrisy and bullshit. And what that does is you put that out there and people are going to, because Springsteen has, just as an example, 1,000 times more notoriety than Sabo has. So what you do then is like it could be John Cougar Mellencamp or the Neil Youngs of the world and all these other jerk-offs. So what you do is you use their image with this smart phraseology in a meme that points out hypocrisy and makes them look foolish and ridicules them. Well, now you've exposed this to way more people, and people are going to look at that and go, what is that? And if he puts his little watermark, Sabo, on everything, they're going to go, who's Sabo? And they're going to look at that and go, oh, wow, that's right, the Ted Cruz posters, and this guy, he's still doing it, that's good. And that gets more fans. And when you got merchandise, this is a smart business model. I'm trying to get this through to him. Like, dude, this is what you do. You increase your base of people that know that you exist, and now there's more people that are going to look at the stuff you're selling, and boom. That's what you do. And so I hope I got through to him on that. But the other thing I was thinking, again, if he was, let's just say for a fantasy, he decided to move to Sierra Vista or someplace in that area that he can afford, I would work with him. I think the two of us could almost have a business together. And it could be a brick and mortar spot. That could be a graphic arts business where I'm really good with these ideas. Now, Sabo doesn't like taking ideas for other people, mainly because he doesn't want to have to give anybody anything for it. He wants to have his own ideas. He doesn't want anybody else taking credit for his work. We had that before. I did come up with one thing one time that he thought was so good, he did it. And mainly because I promised him, I want nothing from it, dude. You make money on that image or whatever. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just tickled to see it. My idea, you make it happen. It's out there. It makes people laugh. I feel like that makes me feel good. That's enough. It's like my buddy Dave. When I reached out to this guy, Kai, who sent me the engine lift brackets, and they weren't dialed perfect. The welding wasn't perfect, but the idea was sound. And then Dave took it, made a jig. Now he's making these and he's making money. I don't make any money on that. Not asking for any. Don't care. I'm happy that he can do something on the side that's making other people happy, and he's making a few bucks on it. Not a lot. I don't think he's charging enough to really make real money on it with the amount of time involved that he puts into making those things. But again, help a buddy out. They make money. Everybody's happy. I'm happy. That's enough for me. If I came up with an idea that was so good that somebody else is able to generate like real income off of it, like, 6-digit, you know what I'm saying, $100,000, something crazy like that, then yeah, I mean, the right thing to do would be toss me some coin. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying. And they're my friends, and I think that they would if it was that big. But at this point, where they're just getting by doing it, I can't, don't care. I'm happy. So the one thing I did with Sabo was the Eric Cartman thing with Gavin Newsom. Obey my authority. So I said, dude, you got to put Gavin Newsom's head on Cartman. And that's what it's got to be. And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And he did it. And it's freaking hysterical, man. So, but if we were together and I could be like, here's what we need, dude, hit this. And I can give him a couple ideas. I would do a lot of the research, and he could get on his computer and in a couple hours have some badass thing dialed that we put out there that can go on a t-shirt or something. We could both make money. And I'm a motivator with other people. I am. And that would be fun. So maybe I'll send him a link to this video. So Sabo, if you're watching this, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. I got my own things to do. You got your own things to do. But together, spending a couple hours, a few days a week, once in a while. It's not like we were living together or anything. We could put our heads together on stuff and come up where I could send you ideas and you can make them happen. And then we'd make that available to people. I can get a little bit of a percentage on those things. It's totally separate from your political art. I'm just saying, there's a lot of other things that, because like if he's thinking about getting another job, this is just my thought process. His skill is the graphic arts and being an artist. His skill is what he's able to do with his computer. His skill is taking a thought, finding the imagery, manipulating the image, putting it all together, and creating a visual. It doesn't even have to be political, man. Matter of fact, you're going to make more money without the political stuff. Like I had the idea with the sun visor for the windscreen in your car. So if you've seen my Astrovan Tribe sticker, don't go anywhere. I can grab it really quick. I think. Okay, here we go. So that's like being on. It's almost as bad as being on radio and having dead air. I'm so pro. So here's the Astrovan Tribe logo. I hope this is focusing. I have a tendency to move it too fast. And so if it's focused, what you'll see there, it's a Sasquatch driving with a little alien in the passenger seat. Now, I've had a Bigfoot experience. You guys know the videos are here. Go to my page, go to a little spyglass and type in Sasquatch or Bigfoot and those videos will pop up. And I've got some UFO pictures that I took, and I've got UAP, UFO videos here that you should see. One of them is like the best UAP or UFO images you've ever seen. I highly recommend that you watch that video. Now, there is a known windscreen you could buy that is the image from Star Wars, where the whole cast, or most of it, I think it's Han Solo and Chewbacca, you know, first Bigfoot in the movies. You know, they want you to think there was a guy in that suit, but no, that was a real Sasquatch. I'm having fun with you. But anyhow, it's those two guys and Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker and the droids. Might even have Alec Guinness in there. I don't know. But it's them. And you'll see that sometimes in somebody's windshield of their car. And so I asked Sabo, I said, could we do that where we do a Bigfoot and a gray alien? Can I actually take a picture of the front of an Astrovan through the windshield and then impose them in there and then print that UV whatever on one of these windscreens, because I would love to put that in the windshield of my van. And I think that's something I could sell. I think almost every Astrovan owner, at least if you're part of the Astrovan tribe, you would want one. And that would be cool. But other people would buy that as well. Do you get it? You get it? You hear what I'm saying? Like, he has that ability. For him, he could at least create that image. He could do what I just said and just make the image. I could put that on my cover picture on my Facebook page. He could do that today, like that. Couple hours, that image could be dialed and done. That's the ability that he has. And that talent is his talent. And I'm just saying, he can apply that talent to everything. I don't care what it is. I'm not even going to give my ideas away here, because I got a lot of good ideas, and I've mentioned them before, and I've had a lot of my ideas used by people, taken and used, and they've made money with it. And I've never been like, hey man, I mentioned that, and here's the proof, and don't really care. I get that from people with my furniture. I used to get that a lot. where people would be like, "What are you doing? You're putting," like I used to do these complete picture folders, and they're still there on my Facebook page, or even when I did some videos. I don't do how-to videos on YouTube. I just tell you what I'm doing and I kind of show you a little bit. But people would say, "Dude, you're giving all this information away. People are going to steal your designs." Yeah, I am not doing anything that hasn't been done already. People have been doing what I do for thousands of years. Not everybody has the skill level to do what I'm doing. I'm looking at one of my benches behind the camera here, my rocket bench, and the way that seat is shaped and the butterfly mortises and everything else. If you want to go through the trouble of trying to make one of those things, good luck. You know, good luck. So that's that. The next one is, yesterday I went to Staples to print my records from the Marine Corps. This will stop a bullet, man. I mean, I was doing it for like almost 2 hours. But when I pulled up, I pull up, and this guy comes out. He's a security guard. He's a black guy. And he goes, "Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh." This is weird energy. I don't know what's coming at me right now. And I had pulled up, and I backed into a space facing the front door right there. And he's coming out. He's doing this. I'm getting out of the van. He's like, "Oh, oh, show. Oh," he's doing this. I'm like, "What is going on?" He goes, "Astro Fan Tribe, man. I follow you." Like, he was a rabid fan. Ron, dude, I put a picture of him. I'll share it. I'll share it right now. That's me and Ron. Ron's, what a nice guy, man. Holy cow, what a nice guy. And we had a good time, and he was very complimentary, and I didn't think I had stickers in the van. I said, "I'll come back." And this morning I found him in the visor. I got to remember that they're always stuck there for people like him. But I'll go back next Saturday and I'll give him a sticker. We had a great time. I went in there, and he was asking me questions. He'd like help with he had an Astro van. Before that he had the Aerostar, and now he's got the Toyota Sienna. Astro van by far is the best at all three of those, and he agrees. And maybe I'll have him on the channel one day talking about the van. Look at his smile, man. He's just a nice guy, and he's a van life type of person. He showed me a bunch of pictures. He's so proud of it, and he'd like some help. I don't have a space set up where I can have a guy like him come in and park there and work on his van. I just don't have that. So it's doubtful, but you never know. So that was a good time, and he was so complimentary. He kept giving me these accolades. It makes me uncomfortable when there's other people around. When it's two people talking, I get it. And I'd be like, "Calm down, guy. I'm not that big of a deal, you know." But he's like, "You're so inspirational, man. I mean, you got me through so much crap, and helping me with the van and just listening to you talk." And that's the sort of thing between him and Dan, who called the day before. I think it's Dan. You guys are the reason I keep doing this. You're the motivation for me to keep doing this and talking about stuff. And that's what I wanted to bring up. So thank you for that. Now, that was all good. Now we get into something. I was just going to talk to you about those two dudes. I'm glad that the Sabo thing came up. But the other thing is I just got off the phone with a guy. This is crazy. I forget his name. I think his name is Dan. This is a bizarre one. Now, this has happened before. Let me tell you what happened. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? You might want to sit down for this one. This could go into the category of like my 4th episode of The One That Got Away, which I owe you guys an episode of that. I've slowed down on that because, you know, people don't understand I'm being funny. When I'm doing The One That Got Away, I'm purposefully being funny. A little raunchy. If there's adult humor there, it's all based in truth. Those things happened, but I'm being more sharp-tongued and using certain phraseology and words to create an image in your mind to make you laugh. And it's adult humor. So some people don't get it. Some women don't like it. I've gotten those comments and messages that people don't appreciate it. You know, they're here for this, that. I'm going to do it again. So you don't have to watch it. But having said that, I get this call. I have no idea who this guy is. And he starts talking to me. He's saying this woman's name, and it takes me a moment to realize who he's talking about. And now I'm like, uh-oh, because he had this weird energy too, and he's hurt. I can hear like a little pain in him at first. Because he loves this woman. And this is a woman that I used to get down with, man. And he came into the picture later, and I never knew who he was. That she had told me about him, and she had some wild experiences with him that she shared with me while after she and I were past that, and we were just kind of being friends at the time. And I haven't seen or talked to her in at least a year, probably more. So this guy, she has ghosted him. She's done that to me plenty. I haven't talked to her in over a year. So he's worried about her. You know, she and I had hooked back up and all this wild stuff he was bringing up. And turns out he was cool. And I'm cool. And so we became bros on the phone, man. And he thinks that she's actually screwing another buddy of his. We know the kind of woman we're talking about here. She's not a bad person. She's just, she's hot. She's got that side. I'll talk about her a little bit. I'll tell you the story. But this has happened. I told him this. This has happened to me a lot. The earliest I can remember where I feel like a asshole about it, was a kid. I was in 9th grade. Not a phone call. I'm going to get to the phone calls that have happened to me as an adult. But I remember being in 9th grade, and I was in New York. It was the first year I was living alone. I was with my dad, but he was home on weekends, and not even every weekend. There's a lot of freedom, and it was my first time living alone, being alone, around people, making new friends in a place where I didn't grow up with these guys, and they all grew up together, and that's a weird dichotomy there, and finding my place there, and hazing, and all kinds of crazy shit that went on, and failing 5 subjects and going to summer school to pass. It wasn't that I was dumb. I was smoking grass and cutting school and doing all these dumb things. I remember this guy I became friends with for a minute. I remember his name. Pat Marsh was his name. And he was a pretty nice guy. Tall guy, nice guy. A lot of big guys I mentioned before always became friends with me. And I was a tiny kid at that time. I was like 115 pounds. I wrestled freshman year, 115 pounds. And I didn't stick with it. There's a reason for that, well, I don't need to get into right now. But anyhow, he was into this girl. And they weren't serious. It was 9th grade. And she was visiting from Alaska. And her name was Elizabeth. And I don't remember her last name, and I wish I could, because I would look her up today. This was in Suffern, New York. Suffern High School. And she liked me. And she and I started talking. And then, like, at lunchtime and whatnot, we'd find some weird corner and be making out somewhere. Or she'd be sitting on my lap in the lunchroom, and we'd just be tongues in each other's mouths, everything. And he found out about it. And he approached me about it, man. He wanted to beat me up, I remember, because he was hurt. We're kids. You're a kid. You don't know how else to deal with it. You're hurt, you want to lash out. Totally understandable. But I felt like I was friends with him, so I didn't want to get into a fight with the guy. And I kind of like turned my back and just kept walking away from him, and walked into class late, and he was out there looking at me, just wanted to beat me up, and it fizzled out. Nothing happened with it. And she and I kept doing that thing forever how long, and that eventually fell apart. It was not that important. But I remember that, not feeling great about it. It's just one of those things that happen. Not my proudest moment. There's plenty of moments in my life I'm not proud of. Shared many of them here. I don't know why that's popped in my head, because it's really not the same story, but I'm just going back to like that sort of thing, like being a buddy fucker, we call it in the Marines, which is not a nice thing to be, and I try not to be that. But sometimes with women, it doesn't matter what is going. Like, a guy could think he's got this. What happened with this guy on the phone today? He could think that he's got this great thing with this woman, and you could think. Matter of fact, he was with a woman before her for 10 years, and he told me that she just disappeared one day. Totally cut him off and disappeared. That was the end of it. So as men, a lot of times we think it's one way and there's something going on and we're really into somebody, but that woman has a whole other agenda going on in her mind. I just, as I'm saying that, like 3 or 4 of these relationships just popped in my head that I had like that, where I thought things are good, but no, man, that chick's just making time with you till something better comes along. fucked up. I'm sure men have done that too, but it's tough, man. And that's kind of what the gist of what I'm saying. Now, I've had it before where I could think of two other times, right now, off the top of my head, there's probably more, where guys have contacted me or called me distraught, thinking, and they weren't always wrong, that I was screwing their girl. But it was always with somebody that I had dated before they were dating them. And my attitude to that is like, hello? This is Mike? Yeah. Well, I'm this person, and what are you doing? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What's your name? Who are we talking about? I got to think about it, right? Okay. Oh, yeah. So what's going on? Then I remember the girl. I'm like, well, just so you know. And I'm fucking honest about it. Like, well, here's the deal, man. I did this with her. This is how long we were together, and that's it, you know. And if she was just here, I'll tell him. Be like, yeah, dude, she was here. What do you want from me? I don't know anything about you. She never brought you up. Nothing. I can tell you she left with a big friggin' smile on her face. You know, I mean, I'm not real with it. Because I'm not, I would want somebody to be that real with me if I was that upset. To the point where I called some dude like, hey man, you know, I'm going out with Michelle, let's say, and you know, I found your name in her phone, so I wouldn't be snooping in her phone. This guy got my number from this woman's phone. That's how he found it. Apparently he's like, dude, she still likes you. She brings you up all the time, and I didn't know any of that. So the point is, that's funny about this. There was another guy one time. I got to bring this guy up. He's just a friggin', matter of fact, I got some of his artwork here somewhere. I think it's in the other room. I'm not going to mention his name because I'm going to talk some smack about him. I feel bad for the guy, actually. He was an artist, very good artist, kind of like hot rod art, you know, that style, pin-up hot rod. He's painting. He did like a lot of posters for punk rock bands and things like that. And he's bigger than me. Excuse me. And he's gone out with some women I know that are drop dead. I mean, just super gorgeous, man. A couple of them been strippers, but just the hottest ones. Yeah, just super hot. And he cheated on every one of them with not hot, like overweight chicks and everything else. And I was friends with quite a few of these women, and I'm friends with a lot of women, and they tell me a lot of personal stuff, and then they'll dump on me about things, and they want to get like a man's point of view from me. And I'm a good friend to women. There's plenty of women I'm friends with I haven't slept with. I slept with most of them. But I can do that. I'm that guy. I could be friends with somebody, we could have a relationship, we could have sex, and I could still be friends with you. And you could be dating somebody else and married and have kids and all of it. Proof is there. I've got tons of women I'm friends with right now. Some of you are watching this. You know that we've gotten it on in the past, and now you're married and have kids and everything else, and we're still tight. And in many of those cases, I know your husband, and your husband and I get along great, because I'm not a jerk-off. I'm a pretty nice guy. And I'm not the jealous type or anything like that. This guy, he started threatening me. First, I heard a rumor that he was telling people he wanted to kick my ass. Okay. I'm not the guy to screw around with that. And so I was hearing that for a bit. And I can't remember if this was before or after, but there was this one woman in particular, and I've photographed her before, and she's in my pictures. And I've photographed her on some of my furniture, and if you guys have seen her, you've seen her. She doesn't even look like a real human being. That's how attractive she is. And she looks like she could be a real doll or something, because her facial structure and everything is just, her body, everything about it is like, what? It's crazy. And this guy, they had an altercation, and she admitted that she did something to him. I think she put like, he was giving her shit, pushing her around, getting physical, and then she like put like hot sauce in his face or something, and then he beat her and everything else. In the middle of the night, I get a phone call to pick her up, and she's got like scratches on her neck and everything and bruises. And I'm thinking, what do I got to do? I got to put this guy in the hospital now, but it's their thing. I don't know the whole truth. I shouldn't get that involved, but I'll console her, make her feel safe. I did all that stuff. And then the next thing you know, Well, I'll tell you what else happened at that point. She revealed something that none of the other girls revealed to me. None of my business. This is none of my business, but I'm only bringing it up so you can understand where some of these insecurities come from. She said to me, that's why I'm not mentioning the guy's name or anything, but she mentioned to me that his penis is literally the size of my pinky. So that's, you got to feel bad for the guy. You got to feel bad for the guy. But you can understand where you're that dude, you have all this talent, and when people meet you, you're a good guy, you seem like a nice guy, and you're able to, you have the charisma to land these super hot women, but you're insecure because you have a tiny pecker, and that's why you're cheating, because you're insecure. And his insecurity bubbled over to the point that I was friends with quite a few of these women that he had dated and screwed over. And I've been the guy that they could rely on, and they've probably brought me up or something, and he felt threatened by me because I don't have a tiny little penis. Doing fine in that department. It's like, we won't get into that. None of your business. So, but the point is, like, he got to the point where he was telling people he was going to kick my ass. And I found out about it, and I heard it enough times to where I reached out to him. I didn't have his phone number. I don't remember how this all went down. This was like, this could have been in the 90s still, like late 90s or early 2000s. And I remember being out first and seeing him around, and I knew what he was doing. It's before I reached out to him. I remember seeing him out one night at the Bigfoot Lodge. I was like, that's the guy. This guy wants to kick my ass. I said, all right. So I get close to him in the bar, and I know my surroundings. I know what's happening. I can hear things. I gave him my back on purpose, figuring let him make a sucker punch move on me or something. You know, as long as he doesn't take me out. Like, this is a bar fight scenario I'm kind of setting up. You know, I'm going to put this guy down. No problem. Done it dozens of times in my life. Confident with this. And nothing happens. When he's walking out at one point later, like an hour or two later, he bumps me, which he didn't have to do. He bumps me. So I turn around and look, and he doesn't stop. He just keeps walking. So now I know what I'm dealing with. A pussy. All right? So I'm like, okay. All right. Now this is the thing. Now I want to let it go because it's not worth it. It's probably not going to come to anything. But then I hear it again. Somebody called me this time. Dude, this guy's, he's going to kick your ass. Or I'm like, he ain't kicking my ass. I just saw him out last week. I gave him my back. He bumps me. I turn around. Nothing. He's a pussy. He's just talking. That's what those guys do. Big talkers, big barkers. Those guys, pussies. All of them. So it's the quiet guys that are calm that you got to watch out for. So, all right. Again, I don't remember how I reached out to him. It was probably like social media or something. You know, we were probably connected through, at that time it was MySpace, I think. So I think that is what happened. I know I sent him a note somehow. Could have turned into email or something. I was like, dude, because again, I didn't have his phone number. But I sent him a note. Say, hey man, this is Mike. I hear you're telling everybody you want to kick my ass. Cool. Here's my address. Here's my phone number. Everything. You come over anytime you want. I got a big parking lot out here. Anytime. Anytime you say the word, and mano a mano, man. No rules. I like that. No rules. So now he's like getting back to me. Dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just upset, blah, blah, blah. And now he wants to be my buddy. And I'm thinking, all right, well, you know, the guy was cool. He admitted he was wrong, apologized up and down, and I actually tried to help him out with his art. So I was giving him some wood panels. He was coming by, and it was fine. Later, sometime later, something else was going on, and it could have been a year or two later. Again, it was the same sort of incident. He screwed over some chick. She was probably upset enough where she brought me up, like in a way to defend her. And he starts talking smack. But now he can call me, you know, or text message me or whatever. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm like, dude, I told you. Come on. You know where I'm at now. Anytime. He's like, you ain't going to be like that, man. You know, I'm going to see you out and I'm going to come up behind you and sucker punch. He's like admitting that he's going to assault me out of the blue, right? To which my response is, that's because you're a pussy. You know, That's why. And you ain't going to do any of it. I am not worried about you whatsoever. And if you do, you better take me out. You better, because if you don't and you sucker punch me, and I've been sucker punched plenty, there's plenty of my friends, some of you might be watching right now, and if you are, put in the comments where I've been out in a bar and I've been sucker punched. And it did not work out well for the other guy. People have seen it. So that was that kind of situation. These guys can be very insecure. Now, the guy that called me today, not insecure at all. Just a nice guy who truly cares about this woman. And it was a really enlightening and adult, fun conversation. And it was like, now we're bros. I told him, I was like, as a joke, I was like, oh, we should tag team or something. He chuckled at that. And I said, but what we should do for fun is take her out. The two of us, like, really go, let's go have a dinner and a drink or something, although I'm not drinking right now, but, and just hash this out, because I believe it would be a freeing thing for her, because she had mentioned him to me in the past after she and I, our thing had petered out, but she still wanted to be tight with me and friends. I think, so the story with her is this. I said I would tell the story. I met her at least 14 years ago. Maybe longer. She was married at the time to a guy. He happens to be like a Hollywood guy. Big time writer. He's written some of the biggest movies you've ever seen. I don't want to give too many details away. I don't want too many people to put this together. So, but a friend of mine did work in her house. She wanted to talk to somebody about doing some custom furniture. He gave her my number. I went over there and met with her. And now the person that I met was not a happy person. And she looked, she was something about her that I could see this beauty in her, but she looked bad. I could see the rings in her nose, like the redness around her nostrils, because she was snorting something, probably cocaine, that sort of thing. She had this t-shirt that had stains on it. Very young children. And, you know, she's married to a guy that's making millions of dollars. She's living in Beverly Hills. And she is not happy. She's miserable. And I can see it. And I just felt sorry for her, you know. And also, she's got green eyes. I'll say that much. And I am a sucker for green eyes, man. Sucker. It's not even healthy. I want to look at the back of the camera, make sure it's filming, because last week the camera went off. Okay. Oops. I almost just cracked my friggin' hip. So, I'm nice to her. And we speak the same language. She studied art and furniture and design and things like that in college. And so we had this common ground thing. And just being kind and nice to her was enough, where I started to see her blossom as a human being. That's all she needed, was some kindness and somebody to hear her and be nice to her. What I didn't realize was when you, I know this from the past, but I wasn't thinking in these terms. You know, it's just so you know, women, not all guys are walking around trying to hook up. Not every guy is walking around trying to get laid, contrary to what you might think. I don't think that. I'm not walking around thinking, who can I fuck next? Not thinking about it. Once in a while, I see somebody, I know somebody, and I might notice an attribute or something like, but I'm not sitting here dwelling on that shit. Don't care. My thing is human interaction with people, men and women alike, of all ages, colors, creeds, doesn't matter. I like interaction with people when I have the time for it. I also like my alone time. That's why I like living alone. We've been through this. That's another subject and another video. You've heard me talk about it already. She developed an attraction for me. She starts coming by, swinging by the shop, bringing her kids over to the shop, getting me to introduce me to her kids. Very strange, but I just saw it as a friendship. I didn't realize she was developing like feelings for me just because I was being kind to her. But man, she did, and I'm complimentary. I'm complimentary to my male friends about physical attributes on them and style and things like that. I'm the same way with women friends of mine. It's just that some people, if you tell a woman that, let's say you see a picture of her and you say, oh, you're cute in that picture, they can automatically in their brain turn that into a narrative that doesn't exist. I'm having that now. There's a few women I know where I've been kind to them, and then they start sending me messages and whatnot because they think I'm interested. No, it's just a passing thing. It's just an observation. Doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything behind it. Instead of creating the narrative, what you should do is say to the guy, oh, thank you for the compliment, and I feel the same way about you. I noticed that too. I mean, and then just put it out there. Like, are you interested? And then I'd be like, oh, no, I didn't mean anything that serious about it. I think you look nice, and it's nice, and, maybe we can talk about that sometime. And then get to know them and realize it's not going to work or whatever. But what a lot of women will do is they'll create this fantasy in their mind, this narrative, and it builds and builds and builds, and then they start acting out on it, even though there's nothing there, really. They're just imagining it. And I've had that a lot in the past, usually in the negative way, where you're dating somebody and they're inventing something in their mind that then now they're pissed off about it. It's like they had a dream that you cheated on them or something. Never happened. But they've got that in their brain, and then they start treating you like you actually did the thing that they invented in their mind. It's friggin' bizarre and crazy, and that's why I can say sometimes they're friggin' crazy. Now, in this case, she cleaned herself up, man, and she had really good, one of the things I'm most attracted, I like green eyes, a great smile. I'm funny about eyebrows. I like natural eyebrows. I don't like those plucked eyebrows. She had those kind of like thicker eyebrows, and she had a great, decent figure on her. She kept that together. The big thing, and actually, she was kind. She was so kind to me and always bringing me stuff and cupcakes or whatever, just being nice to me, throwing me a bunch of work. Like, get me to do this, that, and the other thing for her. Again, I can't get too deep in that because I don't want to give too much of this away. But I did a lot of cool stuff for her that she paid me for. And then style. She had a great sense of style. Like, if you've got your own individual sense of style that is separate from anything trendy, you're just doing your own thing. Like, that's why I've always liked like the pinup women and all that. Like, if you can blend different vibes together and pull that off and be confident, like, confidence for me in a woman, now not delusional confidence, actual like confidence in yourself. Like, you're not, like, even a woman that could be a little bit larger, if she's got the confidence to wear a bikini, that can turn me on, man. It's that kind of confidence. So confidence, sense of style, and funny little things about me that I like physically. And we don't have to get into all those. But she had that package going. And she, like I said, she cleaned herself up. And she wasn't doing the drugs anymore. And everything cleared up. And now she was this, I made her feel confident because I gave her real compliments and I built her up. And I made her feel like a human being again because she was being berated by her husband. At least that's what she was telling me. And that's what I saw. That's what it looked like to me when I first met her. And then she started sharing with me a lot of this personal stuff that really wasn't any of my business about her personal relationship, and that they're only married and staying together for the kids, and that they have separate rooms and they haven't slept together in years or whatever it was at the time. And this is the thing. For those of you that are like, oh, you shouldn't be messing around with married women. I don't do that. I am not a homewrecker, man. I don't go after women in relationships. I'm not that kind of guy. But having said that, because we're adults here, let's just be honest, right? You don't know. We don't know what's going on in a relationship between two people. And sometimes people have been together for so long that they're not even sleeping together anymore. Sometimes there's physical stuff. Maybe the husband has a hard time getting it up now. Maybe one or the other has a libido that's greater and the other one can't keep up with it. There's all these things. And some of these people have a thing between them where even if they are together, it's okay for, this happened to me. It's happened to me out here. I knew this married woman back in the day, and I knew her husband, and I was her hall pass, and that was just the thing. And he was always cool with me, and he knew once in a while she'd pop by, and it was just a normal, it was fine. Now, a lot of you were like, that's disgusting. That's fine. That's you judging, and that's fine. It's not something I normally engage in. I'm just saying it has happened. Not a lot, but it has happened, and it might happen again. It just depends. I'm not out there looking for, I don't need that shit in my life, but it can happen once in a while. It's fine. And again, some people are together, Now, these two didn't even care about any. They were not getting along. They were getting along as they needed to get along for the sake of a peaceful household at that moment in time and taking care of the kids and everything. But she didn't have a job or anything. She couldn't go out and take care of herself. So she's staying there. She's got her own room and everything. At least that's everything she's telling me. She kept saying she was going to get a divorce, and she started doing this side thing that I believed in, and she was very talented, and I helped her with it, and she was generating income with it. So it was kind of helping her to build up this thing to where she'd be able to go off on her own. And what had happened was we kind of developed this thing where all of a sudden, next thing you know, we started messing around. After I was led to believe everything she told me, which was they're not in love. They sleep in separate bedrooms. They're not really getting along. She's been unhappy forever. Again, I explained to what she looked like when I met her. So I would allow that to happen. But it wasn't it's not something I would call an affair. I wasn't trying to establish a relationship with her. And it was all on her terms, by the way. Yeah, I wasn't telling her I loved her. I wasn't trying to plan trips with her. It wasn't that. It was, we got along, we had a good time. We're basically like a friends with benefits kind of thing, right? It was like she would come over, we would go do something, have fun, talk about something. I'd help her with her stuff that she does. And if she had the time and she was interested, we might get it on. And but then again, she might ghost me for a week or a month or 2 months or 4 months, whatever it was. Like that was her thing. And then she'd pop back into my life. I'd be like, okay, and maybe there'd be a phase where it was 3 or 4 times in a week, and she'd be over, and that we would be getting it on. And then I wouldn't hear from her again for a month or more. So it wasn't an affair or some other side relationship or something. It was just a convenience thing for her. Whenever she needed it and wanted it and had the time for it, she'd call me up, and I liked her, and it wasn't even always good. She had this, she got a personality thing. She has multiple personalities. I never knew it. There'd be times, let's just keep it real here, just as far as the sexuality aspect of it goes. There would be times where she'd come over and we'd have this crazy, great sex thing and some kinky stuff, all this great stuff. And then the next time, she'd just have something in her head where it is not the same person. It was not good. She wasn't into it. She'd be complaining and be like, why are you even here? Why are you here? Like, it was just crazy. She was inconsistent. And that's very off-putting to me. Consistency. Just be the same person all the time, please. Is that too much to ask for? Is that too much to ask for? Somebody to just be consistent? Just always be the same person? I think this is who I'm hanging out with. I think this is who you are. Next day, who the hell is that? This is not who you were yesterday. What is that? What's going on? What the hell's going on, man? Like, people ask me why I'm single and alone. This is why. It's very hard for me to find somebody that's consistent. It's like she had all these other attributes that I'm into that I actually could have. And I had my moments. I can understand why this dude has feelings for her. Because I eventually fell into that with her. It was like, I have those feelings too. I still have them. And I care about her. So I was glad that he called me because I haven't talked to her in a while. And I'm always curious. I'm nervous for her and her life and what's going on. Because there's a lot of drama that I left out of here. Because it's not my business either. Certainly not yours. So, but there's a lot going on there with her. And so I'm scared for her, nervous for her life. But I'm glad I talked to him because now I know what's going on with her and I feel better about it. And I'm glad that she's got a guy in her life that cares enough about her to find my phone number and look me up and call me and have a conversation with me because she still talks about me. And he wants to know in his head what's going on if there was anything with us now, today. Not that he told me, he's like, he wouldn't even be upset about it. He would just want to know. As I would want to know if I was with somebody that I cared about who suddenly ghosted me, and now I'm trying to be a detective, I'm friggin' Marlowe here, looking up phone numbers and calling people. Philip Marlowe. You like that? You like the reference there? Sam Spade, is that a better one for you? Sam Spade's a better one. And so, I respect that dude for doing that. Because I would do the same thing. If I really cared about somebody and that person ghosted me, I'd want to know what's going on. And now he's like, dude, we should get a beer. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So we'll hang out. It'll be cool. So I don't know if you're getting anything out of this, but, it's just these are 4 people I had conversations with in the last 3 days that make me feel kind of good, you know, in a weird way. Because, you know, I was a little bit bummed out after this trip with Arizona just because of family stuff. And I'm a little nervous about money. Obviously, I don't have any money coming in at the moment. Tomorrow I'm going to work for a day. And then I am going to start going back to this other job I had here down the road. I talked to her this past week. Just got to give her some numbers. So I'll start picking things up again. But it's going to be sporadic. So I'll start hustling again too, again with bike videos and all these other things that people have been asking me for a while. I have a Varsity, Schwinn Varsity out here, the small frame. I don't have the wheels on it, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to strip that on film, on camera, and I'm going to build a clunker. It'll be one video. How to turn a Schwinn Varsity into a clunker. And it'll be period correct clunker. And I think I'll just do a coaster break at this point, just to show you what you need to do. And I think that'll be fun. So there'll be that sort of thing. Again, with the leather, all those things are going to happen. It is warm today. So as things cool off, I'll have more energy, and the air quality will be better, and I'll feel better. And so after work at night, I'll be in here like I did last year, and I'll be doing my leather work and everything else, and share that with you guys. And there'll be things available for sale and all that good stuff. So anyhow, that's the end of this Sunday night chat. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know what you think about it. I guess you'll tell me in the comments. I never know how these things are going to go. Sometimes I feel like, God, it was horrible. And then it's nothing but positive comments, and I feed off of that. So thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. That's it for now. Be kind to one another. Most important thing. Listen. Do your best with people that you care about. But take no shit either. All right? And come back again. Tell your friends. I'll catch you all in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.